In 2011, a new band exploded onto the scene.
Going to see the Amazing Snakeheads live was slightly terrifying, slightly confrontational, serial killer rock.
Frontman Dale Barclay dominated the stage like no one else.
Definitely a kind of gangster sort of vibe about him.
A fully formed, dangerous frontman.
Slightly psychotic, like it was genuine, there was something going on there.
Here's the guy that's kind of got more brains than anybody else and probably a little bit more vicious than everybody else as well.
It's rock and roll to my ears, but what other people make of it, fuck knows.
I'll see it again! But what should have been the next great Scottish rock and roll story instead turned into tragedy.
So Dale, June was the last time we spoke. What's happened since then?
Well, Billy, my cancers came back for a start.
This is a story of a fierce talent taken too soon. An artist that tore up the stage, that never backed down, and to the end, never compromised.
My name is Dale, I play in the Amazing Snakeheads and I'm the singer and I play guitar.
Hi, my name is William, I'm the bass player in the Amazing Snakeheads.
And I'm Jordan, the drummer for the Amazing Snakeheads.
In 2011, rumours of the next must-see band were spreading through the Glasgow music scene.
We had a friend of ours, he said, you gotta come out, I'll come and pick you up. You have to come and see this band, the Amazing Snakeheads. And we went and saw them and we were just totally blown away.
There was a buzz about them. I remember people saying, oh, the lead singer's a total wild man, and he screams and he like takes his top off on stage and so on. I don't really like them. And while they were describing that, I was just thinking, I love this band already. And then when they told me the name, the Amazing Snakeheads, I was sold.
They did have an air of mystery about them because nobody knew who they were. Because you know what, the Glasgow scene's like, everybody knows each other. Like, nobody in Glasgow seemed to know who this band was.
They may have appeared like an overnight sensation, but the reality was anything but.
It was Jordan and Dale that started the Snakeheads, but I'd never met Jordan up to that point.
What really spawned the band was we went to see a band called the Jim Jones Review. They're a 50s-inspired Little Richard kind of but amped up band for London. So we saw them one night and decided, oh, we need to start a band, we can do this. I knew Dale had always played guitar, and Dale suggested his friend William, who had never played bass before, so it was a team of novices. So he came down and their chemistry just clicked. We all got on well with each other.
But rather than rush to play gigs, the new band stuck to rehearsal rooms.
At the start, it was just figuring out what we were doing, to be honest. You know what I mean? There wasn't even an effort to sound like anything. I mean, we practiced for about 2 or 3 years before we even played.
And that was 9 months of going to the studio 3 times a week. We wanted to hit the ground running. You don't want to come out with your B game, you know? If you're starting out, you want to come out. We're here, this is us, get ready for it, you know?
We've never had a conversation where we've went, what we're going to sound like. We just went in the practice room and just had fun.
He's not a singer. You know what I mean? It's just honest. We're not trying to kid on to be anybody else.
Months of practice and hard work paid off. When they finally emerged, Glasgow's underground music scene sat up and paid attention to the Snakeheads.
When we saw them play live, I just remember like halfway through the first song that we watched, I was like nudging them and it was just like, where the fuck did this band come from? It was like our dream band that just like dropped out of the sky.
Yeah.
They seemed like a combination of a lot of things. It felt like there was something genuinely dangerous about them. Something very Glasgow. And I don't mean very Glasgow in a Glasgow indie sort of way. I mean like actually Glasgow, like properly Glasgow.
Dale was brought up in a working class family in Glasgow. He was expected to get a trade, maybe settle down, just live in Glasgow. That's what you did. But to, you know, train as a stonemason and then just come out of nowhere with this really good rock and roll band, it's quite shocking, to be fair.
Touching on the lyrical honesty of hero Hank Williams, Dale created his own unapologetic sound.
Fucking love you, Hank.
You could feel something seeping in from, I don't know, some backstreet strip club in Las Vegas sometime in the 50s, or maybe something from New Orleans. But he wasn't singing in a fake American accent. He was singing in as raw a Glasgow accent as you can get.
Dale and the band may have had a signature sound, but in order to be the rock stars they knew they were, they had to put on a show.
Anybody that knows anything about music knows you've got to look good.
People come out to pay money to see you. They don't want to see themselves on stage. They want to see a rock star, you know? They want to see someone, James Brown, you know, they want to see someone looking tight and polite.
He would quite often strip to the waist. He'd probably come on with a really cool jacket with like a snake head on the back or like a tiger's head or something like that. And so he would immediately look quite cool and rock and roll. Then you'd see that kind of psychosis in his eyes, and it would be borderline frightening. But also a bit like a car crash or anything like that. You don't want to look. You're a little bit scared. You're a little bit repulsed perhaps, but you can't take your eyes off it.
I knew he wasn't a cowboy, you know, being from Glasgow and all, but yeah, it was just a look, you know, it's a statement, isn't it, to wear one of the hats. But yeah, he had a thing for fashion, putting his own stamp on a look, and it worked. People loved it. And I've seen a lot of those mad shirts around Glasgow since.
Like everything about them looked like from some sort of other world, outside of the rays of daylight, put it that way. It kind of added up to this gangster meanness that he exuded, but like old school gangster. Yeah.
The Snakeheads had the look, sound and attitude that screamed rock and roll. And on stage, they were electric.
The live show was like one of the best things going.
It's a rock and roll show. It's a rock and roll show, high energy rock and roll, the way it's meant to be done.
I remember broadcast a few times was rocking. I think we'd done a residency in there for 3 nights.
People started responding to it in a positive way. I'll never ever forget that. You can't fake that shit, man, when it's true and it's there and everybody in the room is just one big ball of energy.
You're kind of concerned by Dale's presence on stage. That guy could jump off this stage and smash me over the head with his guitar or take a bite out of my girlfriend's neck or something like that.
Very much reminded me of the first time I went to see The Fall playing and being right down at the front on the stage with Marky Smith's boots marching back and forth on the stage, and he's been incredibly aware that there might be a possibility you might get kicked in the face. It was just like pure menace coming from the stage.
You've got to put work in. You want to create anything. You know what I mean? You can't just sit about waiting for it to come. You've got to go out and get it.
Their hard work on stage was paying off, and after a year playing live, it was time to take their raw power into the recording studio.
We got to work with them in the studio, and it was incredible because it was like, this is why we set this studio up to work with, you know, a band like them.
Everything about it was perfect. There just couldn't be a better connection between them. They were just all on the same page. Emily and Stu knew the ethos, they understood the sound. They worked with analog tape.
And they wanted to do everything in one take, which I loved.
Yeah.
They were just like, we're going to set the mics up. We're not going to do any overdubs. We're just going to knock out everything we can play in one take. We've got 30 minutes of tape. Let's just put it all on there.
So that's where Testifying Time came from.
And Truth Serum.
And Truth Serum, which was on the first single. So that was from that session where it was just them playing live in the live room.
The Snakeheads recording style kept their sound just like their live show. Raw, emotional, aggressive, and to the point.
Great, yeah. I mean, that was short and sweet, was it? Probably 57 seconds or something. 1 minute and 3 seconds. First single out, so loved it.
With an electrifying live show and a recording to help spread their sound, Dale and the band were attracting a cult following, and interest in the band was spreading to the music industry in London. Lawrence Bell headed up super indie label Domino Records, who looked after Arctic Monkeys and Franz Ferdinand. He headed up to Glasgow to check them out.
He was talking about going up to this guy Dale's flat and playing 45s and dancing through the night with him.
Well, I don't know who he was, just saw this guy. I was like, all right, mate, how you doing? Want to be here? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, who are you anyway? And he was like, oh, I'm Lawrence from Domino and Domino Records. I'm like, oh, right, nice one. And then from there, like the next week, we signed terms.
Music is Lawrence's life, but he's not universally excited about music. He's only excited about it when it's exceptional. And just seeing Lawrence's reaction, I knew that there was something pretty special going on here.
In just 18 months, the Amazing Snakeheads had gone from playing small gigs in underground venues to landing a record deal with an influential label. The Snakeheads were in good company and on a trajectory to bigger things.
We had the odd gig with sort of bigger names. We'd done a Franz Ferdinand sort of homecoming thing at the QMU in Glasgow, which was nice.
I just remember the shock in the eyes of our front row. Dale leaning down and leering at this young girl, kind of going and saying, "Child," and she was like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." Yeah, I think there were probably a few nightmares after that show for those audience members.
Here it comes again. Here it comes again.
We'd done the Enemy Radar tour with Fat White Family and Cerebral Palsy.
Here it comes again!
That was our first real tour where you're day in, day out, city to city to city. It was a dream, basically, at that point. That was a pinnacle. That's what you're doing it for, you know?
That was rough, man. Yeah, it was the back of a transit. That was a transit van tour, that one.
Me, Jordan, Dale, Gavin, our tour manager, Laura, all the stuff in the back.
What was it like being in a band with a couple?
Not a problem.
Wasn't Fleetwood Mac then?
well, no, it was brilliant. I mean, Laura's very talented as well. She sang Bullfighter. I don't know if you've heard that. Blow your socks off.
We always wrote music together. Dale helped me write some of my music, and Bullfighter as well. I wrote the lyrics there.
I never knew Laura played music and wrote when I first met her. An angel, a fucking singing angel, man. She elevated the Snakeheads.
When we first met, we went dancing together, spent a few nights out together, and Dale decided he would start coming round and lending me records. He knew I loved blues, so he started giving me a bit of a blues education. But I think that the dropping off records was just an excuse to come round and then come and take them back off me again.
Their time on tour cemented the Snakeheads as a tight three-piece band, ready to write and record their debut album.
Any band who come into the studio with a record label saying, "Okay, record your first album," that puts a lot of pressure on somebody. So you were aware of, you know, that Dale was feeling some of that pressure when he came in.
Initially, Domino suggested that they record it elsewhere, but Dale stuck to his guns. He wanted it done in Greendoor with Emily and Stu.
It was 2 weeks, every night, 4 o'clock till whenever. But that's the way we like to work intensely and then get it done.
The raw energy of their original studio session was evident when recording the album, but this time, Dale would reveal a more nuanced side to his songwriting.
It wasn't flash, there was no unnecessary adornment or anything to the tracks, and that's what Dale was really, really good about being.
On a studio day, Dale would wake up like a kid on Christmas.
I've got a feeling in my bones, like no feeling.
You know, there's just certain elements that all work together. You know, if you think about like Will's bass playing, this really minimalist bass playing where it doesn't need any more than 2 notes, almost like a kind of dub reggae
and it's really
version of it. But it's actually hard to play that way. You know, it's hard to play so few notes, but to say a lot with how you inflect them. And so I just think all the elements of their, you know, that, and then with Dale's guitar playing and Geordie's drumming, it all fit really well together.
Emily was like a mother figure, very super patient, you know. There was no, oh, you've got to do it this way, you've got to do it that way. You just do it and we'll work around how we can make it sound best. But it wasn't anything fundamental in terms of, you need to change your song because radio won't play it, or it was nothing like that.
Weird as my name. Weird as my name.
One song on the album encapsulated what the Snakeheads, and especially charismatic frontman Dale, were all about.
Where is my knife? I mean, I laugh at songs like that, but it's terrifying though. I mean, if you hear someone screaming in a really like violent Glaswegian accent, where is my knife? It's, you know, it doesn't matter if you're from Glasgow, but especially if you're not, that's terrifying. And but there's something comedic about it as well, and maybe that's my own sense of humour.
I don't think a lot of people saw just how funny the Snakeheads were. I thought they were like, you know, it was brutal and it was violent, but it was also fucking hilarious, you know? And I like that. I liked how sharp the juxtaposition was.
And you're asking me to make you a wife. Weird as my name.
Dale was very specific about the tempo, which I can relate to a lot. I'm always very kind of, if something's too fast, it kind of loses its edge. Do you know what I mean? It sounds too excited and too rushed, and it had to be slow to be menacing enough.
Obviously the lyrics are fantastic. It's got a nice wee swagger groove to it. Percussion on the song and everything else. It's different. It's very different.
And Dale was starting to express himself in the studio in a way which showed a more sensitive side not seen before.
My favourite track would probably be Every Guy Wants to Be Her Baby.
All the boys are rubbernecking as she goes by.
I guess after I'd heard that first recording, like I thought like everything would be full on all the time. I thought it would just be like a relentless audio assault, but it wasn't at all. Like there were these incredibly delicate moments which made the explosions when they happened seem all the more powerful.
She got legs, man, they keep on.
Dale on some of the quiet songs is hardly touching the strings on the guitar. So, and he's got a really old, lovely Marshall amp where the hiss is actually louder than, you know, the sound of the guitar coming out of it and stuff like that. Being quite challenging, trying to make that work on the desk.
The lo-fi recording techniques didn't necessarily go down well with more commercial ears.
There was disagreement on a few things, I believe.
I think it wasn't polished enough for their kind of catalogue of things.
We kind of heard a few murmurs, you know, that they might have wanted a couple of tracks remixed.
I believe it's somebody in London that wanted to mix it. I don't know who, but somebody down there. But no, it stayed the way it is, so.
Dale took the burden of all of those sort of minor disagreements on himself. He was the one that stopped Emily Stew having to deal with the label directly, and he also wanted William and Jordan to focus on playing.
Authenticity was everything. No one would touch their sound.
We dug our heels in to say, this is our sound, this is what we sound like. If you don't like it, why did you sign us in the first place?
With the album finished, it needed a name which hinted at the excesses of a rock and roll lifestyle.
Stuart says to us one day, I don't know how you guys can write ballads when you're fleeing, basically. Like, ballads, amphetamine ballads, there you go. It's just as easy as that for an album title.
Here it comes again. Here it comes again. Here it comes again. Here it comes again.
Wonderful, actually, to get our album out. It was a long time coming, and I think people really dig it, which is awe-inspiring. That people, how you can create something and then people you don't know to dig it. It's really good.
The album was well received by fans and critics alike, and a UK tour was booked in to promote it. But their schedule was already filling up.
The whole year was booked out for them, basically. So a couple of European tours and South by Southwest in Texas.
It wasn't just concert promoters that took notice of the Amazing Snakeheads.
Oh, they say I'm bad to the bone, but I know something that they don't know. I know something that they don't know.
So we did RTE, Other Voices in Derry in 2014.
Come alive till night time.
I don't come alive till night time. I don't come alive till night time.
And the acoustic, as far as I remember, that was quite a last-minute thing.
To the bone, but I know something that they don't know.
We enjoyed that as well, pulling songs back and trying to turn them into something a bit different.
I know something that they don't know.
And in the UK, the most influential music show of them all came calling.
They were due to go on Jules Holland.
Playing Jules Holland, it takes you into people's living rooms. I remember when we played Jules Holland, I remember being terrified of it. It's the way that most people discover bands. And I know that's what been the case for the Snakeheads. Obviously there was a buzz about them, like people in the know knew who they were, but your average kind of person just turning on the telly wouldn't have known.
It's like a bit of a turning point for any band if you get onto Jules.
Dale was suggesting that maybe he should get a cape, which was what we all thought was a great idea.
We were obviously, super excited about.
But before they could take to the floor on Jules Holland, the promotional tour to support the release of the album beckoned.
Let's just get on the road and do our thing.
World domination.
World domination.
It was in the summer of 2014, tour of Britain.
I do remember thinking once you're in a band, you'll have all these groupies, but they were all sort of middle-aged men with anoraks who'd listen to Radio 6 a lot, and a vinyl enthusiast. That was kind of the groupies we had.
Here it comes again. Here it comes again.
And when you go on a stage and you're playing music, you better be doing it right, because it's hallowed ground.
Here it comes again.
The tour dates rolled by to great success and reviews. Dale and the Snakeheads were flying high together.
Here it comes again.
Gig every night, drive all day, do whatever we do afterwards, and it was great.
Everything that was decided was a three-way vote. That turned a little sour as time went on, just due to the fact Dale just kept getting outvoted. There was also the element of partying.
Can you party too hard? I didn't think so. I was kind of coming from a hospitality lifestyle. That was just the way I lived anyway.
Dale had come to a point where the party had to stop. After a show, he'd go to his bed, go back to the hotel, soak it all in and get ready for the next night.
Towards the end of their headline tour, Dale's concerns about the post-show partying became a reality.
I broke my leg, so we had to go back up to Blighty, and then the rest is history.
How'd you break your leg?
Well, that's a different story.
We played a gig in Bournemouth. Myself and William had gone out with the girl who'd put on the gig, and we'd been to few houses and a few parties, and then it was sun up, lovely morning in Bournemouth. We're like, should we go down to the beach for a swim? And there's big sea cliffs, and there's a long walkway down like that all the way down. Or Willie was like, I'm just running off this cliff, which he did. He ran down more or less a vertical cliff, smacked onto the concrete at the bottom. I was like, oh, no.
It'd been coming to a head for a while, but this night in Bournemouth sort of just tipped Dale over the edge. And I don't think his initial what he said was very nice. I think it was along the lines, you couple of idiots, you know, why the hell are we out all night?
Dale didn't take it well, left, didn't know where he'd gone. William was in a cast from his ankle up to here, and we drove back to Glasgow, and that was the last, that was that.
I think it got a little bit nasty, and Dale decided if my friend can be that way with me, then...
His exact words were, I hope you go away and die, you fat fuck. That was the last thing that he said to me.
He definitely didn't wish Geordie any, any ill will. He just didn't want to work with him anymore,
The appearance on Jules Holland was just a few days away when the band imploded. The chance to perform on one of the biggest stages in the music industry was lost.
I guarantee if you saw the band live, you would get it, and then you'd probably go back to the record. So I think with a good performance on Later with Jules, they could have, gone a lot further.
It would have been a pretty good opportunity for them.
It was clear that Dale was about the music first and the rock and roll lifestyle second. He lost no time in rebuilding the lineup.
We parted ways, and Andrew, who was a saxophone player, filled in, and Dale got a drummer, Scott, and they went back out.
Here it comes again! Here it comes again!
Cried for about a week and punched my house about. And then probably sulked for a bit, and then just went, right, well, got to go back to work, got to make some coin somehow. Just went back to chef life.
But things wouldn't be the same with the new Amazing Snakeheads.
Even though Dale was, the leader of the band, everybody brought something to it, and the sort of swagger that they all had and the way that they played, that, it was special amongst those three musicians. It wasn't something that was kind of interchangeable with other people. So
yeah, I mean, no one plays drums like Geordie. No one plays bass like Will.
It breaks my heart every day. I think about it every day, about what happened, why it happened, what could I have done better, or did I say something? Was the lifestyle catching up with either of us, him? A million questions. I've just been left just to think about it. Don't know. No answers. Yeah.
It meant so much to Dale being at his music and his brainchild, something he dreamed about for years. And I think with William Jordan, they just found themselves in this position, and it was fun for everybody, but the fun had to stop for Dale to put music first.
Dale continued to tour with the changed Amazing Snakeheads lineup and recorded new single, Can't Let You Go.
So take me away, so I can die.
But without William and Jordan, the unique raw energy that made the Snakeheads special had gone. Dale could no longer continue with the Snakeheads, and by mutual consent, he parted company with Domino Records before Can't Let You Go was released.
So the Snakeheads finished, and then what do you do after that?
That's the question. Exactly, what do we do? Can't do the same thing again. No fucking chance. You know what I mean? It has to be something we have to go forward. Onwards.
Keen to keep performing, Dale took to the stage with his friends, the Fat White Family. This gave him the creative space to develop a new band and a totally new direction. And Yet It Moves was all about musicality, collective ideas, and theatrics.
My God,
And yet it moves. I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, people said, look, it's very different from the Snakeheads, and it was.
With And Yet It Moves, I think Dale took a very conscious decision that he wanted to do things in a different way.
Dale had ended up in Oslo in Norway, where he met Jonas. Came home to me and he said, I've met this drummer. He's like John Coltrane on the drums. Next level. You need to meet this guy.
When I first came over to visit him, like, within 15 minutes I had like full plate of food and my 3 different drinks, like, and it was always like that. Like, he was so generous.
Snakeheads was a Glasgow band, and Yet It Moves took us to Berlin.
We moved to Berlin in early January 2017. We lived in East Berlin, in an office block, and it was in an industrial estate.
24/7, there's music going, classical piano waking you up in the morning, man.
Violinists.
Violinists sending you to sleep. And they were practicing every fucking minute they could.
When Dale and Laura came, we had this room here, this is our rehearsal room, but we also had the room, a tiny room downstairs where we lived in. We made a little kitchen downstairs. And then Laura and Dale got a room on the floor above us. So just like this communal living, but you're not really supposed to live here, but it's accepted.
Surrounded by music, Dale revelled in atmospheric Berlin.
I'd never seen Dale more happy. You know, he would always just look at me and say, I love living in Berlin. Yeah, and it was fun. It was wild. It was a lot of crazy ideas, but Dale loved it, you know.
We're in Berlin, and it's fucking cooking.
3 years on from the release of the Amazing Snakeheads' only album, Dale was in the studio again, recording Free Pass to the Future.
Cool. I mean, like, everything he did, he was so passionate. If he wasn't happy with the take, he would scream, like.
Ah! Again!
Again. It's just this wild energy.
Yeah, I mean, he was hard on himself in terms of that. He wanted to be at his best at any point.
Yeah.
And when he didn't feel like it, you could tell that it affected him deeply.
Come on down to Dale Boy's parking lot in Glasgow, Scotland. I'll get your car better than any rate and any man this side of fucking Mississippi, son. Come on down.
Once they'd finished the album, Dale went back out on the road, doing dates in Europe and the UK.
But the heart goes on, or the body dies, but the soul goes on.
But it was a night in Frankfurt that everything changed.
We just sound checked and we went outside for a smoke and Dale just collapsed. Went to the hospital. They told us to go home, get a scan. It was going to cost us a lot of money to do it in Germany, so we went home, fought for a scan, which we couldn't get. They wouldn't do a scan until he had the second seizure.
2 seizures, as far as I'm concerned, saved my life. The sooner I had these seizures, the better.
And then we found out that it was a grade 4 glioblastoma. It seemed like time stopped that minute. And it was Dale that pulled me together and said, you know, stop asking why. You know, there's children that have this. You think I'm young, you know. You've not met the 3-year-old that's got it, you know. It's just, again, he was that way. So he really pulled me out of a hole at that point, and we decided we live.
Dale's seizures were being caused by a form of brain cancer. With a terminal diagnosis, in 2017, Dale underwent major surgery to remove the tumour. But he wasn't going to let cancer get in the way of his music. He and his wife Laura's band would play a few dates together, delving into his back catalogue. 6 months later, in May 2018, his friend Leah Saudi came to visit before an anticipated gig at Broadcast in Glasgow.
Yeah, we were having a laugh, and I was playing him cuts of the new album, unmixed versions and stuff, and he was sitting in a chair just fucking nodding away. He was so, like, excited to, like, the grin on his face, man. It was a buzz, And he was nodding away like that, and then he just started having, like, a brain seizure. Like, literally sat there, and I've never seen that before, So I was kind of, like, just in shock,
And they had a gig the next day, which was fun.
He's got a gig the next day, and we've been through all this. He hadn't had a seizure in 6 months, so this was like a big deal, obviously. Me and his wife were conspiring behind his back. We're like, we can't let him do the gig.
I've yet to cancel a gig because of something fucking that's been the matter with me.
Just like Lee has got fucking brain cancer. Would you do the gig?
It wasn't a massive roll of the dice, but it's always a roll of the dice, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I was up for it, so we played it.
Take it by both hands and shake your hand.
And he went out in a leather waistcoat and a cowboy hat, and he fucking had it that night, man. Proper. Just like raw, guttural, just fucking electric, man.
It's music. It's what we do, so it was fucking great.
But I'm the unknown! I've been waiting for the same!
Like, as far as an experience related to music is concerned, I've never seen anything more heroic.
Take it by both hands and shake every ninja. Take it by both hands and shake every ninja.
When I got on the train back down south, I just fucking cried and cried and cried and cried,
We knew he was never going to survive. We knew he would die from brain cancer, but we still didn't know when. He just kept saying, no more waiting, Why are we waiting?
With the focus firmly on living, Dale and Laura got married in Glasgow.
We were looking for a wee bit of joy in a horrible, time, and that day was, it was a beautiful day, so.
When they're in a room, it seems like they're joined by some kind of invisible force that you can't see, but you definitely feel, you're definitely aware of.
6 months after their wedding, and 7 months after his initial treatment, Dale's cancer returned.
We were alerted to it through another seizure. We had been at a gig in Mono in Glasgow, and Dale had another one, and we had been told that that is a sign that something's happening, or there's progression that's happening.
Even though they had originally removed 98% of the tumour, it had come back, double the size. This time, Dale needed to look beyond the NHS for treatment.
The NHS have only got chemotherapy to offer me, and it's not worked up to now, so now we need to look everywhere in terms of what I'm going to do to fight this, and it's going to be private. I need private treatment, specialist treatment. So that's what we're investigating now. We've got a GoFundMe page up, which is the only reason I'm going to be alive, to be honest with you, is because it's the only way we can pay for treatment, is if we can get help.
I said, yeah, just like anything we can do to help, obviously, man.
Friends of Dale's on the music scene came together for a fundraiser concert at the Windmill in Brixton.
We were all together for a while, and we had great times, man.
As well as the London gig, musicians in Dale's home city rallied round for a fundraiser to help pay for the brain surgery.
The way that we are seeing it is like the surgery is like beating it back, and then we've got gives us time to fight it. You know what I mean? So surgery's cutting it out as much as they can, and then we fight it for, which we had there was 8 months before the seizure started again. So if that's the way it's going to go, so be it. You know what I mean? Surgery, and then beat it back, and then see what happens.
There's a lot of people out there that go through 5, 6 surgeries and they're all right. So it really is just a throw of the dice. It's just all on black. Yeah.
What are you going to push forward for? Is
Music.
it going to
Music and living well. You know what I mean? Fighting, writing, music. But again, that's just gone on what happened the last time, Bill. So we need to see, don't we? Everything from here on out is just going to be seeing how it goes. There's no doubt about it.
Initially it went well, the second surgery. The surgeons were pleased. We had a lovely sit-down dinner together, long conversations. Dale was very emotional at the time. And then the Sunday, just woke up and he said, I have a headache. Went into a seizure, and this time it was catastrophic. It wasn't one that he was going to come back from. He did wake up at the hospital, but there was nothing that they could do for him. So he was transported to ICU, where he was there until he died, basically.
Sometimes later it hits you, not straight away, you know. You're sort of getting on with your day, and then like a couple of days later you're like plummet into sort of strange, really odd.
Maybe shed a tear.
It does feel like a very frustrating sense of loss of what should have been. On a purely artistic level, it's just, I feel, fuck, there's some good stuff that I know I would have enjoyed. There should have been a few decades of that yet to come. And, well, on a personal level, you know, it's a complete tragedy, so yeah, it's a different thing.
You know, a lot of people, they see him in a certain way, but I mean, to us, he was like our brother and our friend, and we were super close.
And I know there's no way back.
I remember him saying to me that everything was supposed to end in a hail of bullets in Texas or somewhere in the States. That was his plan, to get him, Will and Geordie over there to do an American tour and probably go out in a hail of bullets. And I think he was pretty serious about that.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was...
yeah, the harder they come style.
Yeah. The Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids.
Please sing me to sleep.
We were really joined at the hip. You know, it's a massive hole. A hole that I'll never fill. But at the same time, you know, the only way out is through. And if Dale taught me anything, it was that.
And if my friends gather round, baby, shed a tear.
I genuinely never thought anybody would ever fucking like it never done. You know what I mean? Genuinely, and there's no bullshit there.
Please say